Hi, today's Wednesday, July the 28th. I want to talk today a little bit about peace and quiet. I'm going to get there in a roundabout way, but I'm going to start by telling you that I grew up at a very normal upbringing. We had like a very typical family that had two brothers and myself, and loving parents who did everything that they could to raise us well. And I had a personality that's such, I had lots of friends and I did lots of things, and I really had a great upbringing. And then I graduated high school and was then relying on myself to make the decisions rather than listening to other people. And unfortunately, I wasn't very smart. And I chose a man to be in my life who was not a good person. And that ended in divorce. Now, I believe that everything we do in life is either a lesson or a gift. And I got both. I had a lesson to quit being so naive and start paying attention to what I was doing. And I had a gift because I had my daughter. And I'm very, very thankful for that. Now, after I was divorced, I met a lovely person. It sounds like a crazy story, but I guess if we're crazy people, crazy stories is what we get. And I met this person at a group called the Swinging Singles. Now get your minds out of the gutter. That is not what it was. No, it was a square dance club that was for people who didn't have a partner. And you went and you just joined up with other like-minded people, and we had great time exercising with square dancing. And I met a nice man who I very quickly told him that I was going to be the world's best friend and that there would be no hanky-panky. And 3 months later, we were married. No, it wasn't 3 months later, we were engaged. 3 months after that, we would be married. But it was very quick. Anyway, that man has been my husband since 1985. So therefore, we've been together a long time, and he is a gem to have. That's not to say that everything that we do along the way is wonderful, but sure is nice to have him here with me. Now, I now realize that when I was young and I was out doing things and making wonderful memories, that I never thought about what was going to come down the pike and whatnot. We were just too busy living and having a good time. And I suppose that is what makes life good. He worked. I stayed at home most of the time. I worked some of the time, but I stayed home most of the time with the kids. We had a son a couple years after being married. We had a son in 1988. So, I mean, my children were almost 10 years apart. When my daughter was 10, my husband adopted her so that we could have one family. Now, when we were deciding to get married, I knew it was very important that it wasn't just me. I did have my daughter, and I knew that had to be a consideration. And was he prepared to take on that task? We had that conversation from the very start. As a matter of fact, I should back up just a little bit. When we first met, I knew that I was not going to be naive the way I was the first time. And so very quickly after meeting him, I said, we need to have a serious conversation. And he said, all right, that's fine. What are we discussing? And I said, well, let's discuss without a lot of emotion what we want in a partner. What would we like to have in somebody that we were sharing our lives with? And he told me he wanted a cute little blonde with a skinny figure. And I was neither blonde nor was I skinny. And I said to him, well, you've picked wrong. And he says, no, I think I picked right. He says, it really doesn't matter. He said, what you look like. He said, you are the one that I like. And I said to him, all right, well, I'll tell you what I want. I said, my first husband, we had great highs. We did all sorts of wonderful things. We also had very deep lows, and it was very awful. So therefore, I said what I wanted was somebody who was steady, dull, and boring. And he said, dull and boring. He said, I'm your man. He said, I'm right up your alley. And I said, that's what I want. I want somebody who's going to watch television with me, who's going to work every day of his life, who's going to come home at nighttime and be happy just to spend the time with us. And that's what we did for the rest of our lives. So dull and boring worked out for me. But anyway, when we were going to be married, I thought, well, I'd like to know a little bit more about how his views are with children and whatnot. And he loved my daughter, he really did. But it was a conversation that I overheard. I wasn't meant to hear it. And it was what made me realize that I had most definitely picked correctly. And that was 2 days or so before the wedding. And we got married the day after my daughter's 6th birthday. So 2 days before that, she had said to him, and I heard her ask, can I call you Daddy? And his answer was, no, honey, you can't call me Daddy. He says, I'm not your daddy right now. So he says, no, you can't. I really wish I was your daddy, but I'm not yet. The next night, we had a party for her birthday. We'd gone to Chuck E. Cheese, had 7 little girls, and as if we didn't have enough on our plates to put the wedding together very quickly, we then were having a party the night before for these girls. And we came home and we went to tuck her into bed. And he said, can I have a little conversation with her before we turn in? I said, of course. So I was out in the hall and I overheard the conversation. And he says to her, do you know what tomorrow is? She goes, oh yes. She says, it's a special day. She says, you and Mommy are getting married. And he says to her, he said, yes. He said, that is a very special day. But he said, do you know what that means for you and I? And she says, no. And he says, it means tomorrow, honey, you can call me Daddy. And I knew at that moment that he was a very good man. It's hard to explain how wonderful that makes a mom feel, but that's where we were at. So then we went on to build great memories. We had a child of our own. He adopted my daughter. Therefore, everybody was happy. Our family was extending out, and we were doing things the way regular people do. We bought houses and moved around, and he went from one position to another within the Canada Post organization until it was time to retire. And then he retired. And we moved to the other side of the country, away from our children, and started our retired life. And we had 10 years away that were very, very good. We did all kinds of crazy things and loved every minute of it. Lived on the East Coast, right near the ocean. We were on a river that was 15 minutes from the ocean, so we could drive there very easily. And we had a really good time, and we had lots of friends, and we miss it. Now, we do miss it. But when I started to get ill, we realized that it was going to be now or never to move back. It was a big move. It was going to be hard on us, and we needed to be closer to the kids. So we moved back. Well, one of the things that we got to do before we moved out, I'm getting this very disjointed, but before we moved out, my daughter had a daughter, and I was a grandma, and a grandma to a little girl named Ivy. And we spent many years looking after her, babysitting whenever we could and having a great time. And I missed her, and she grew up so fast. And she was a young woman when I came back. She's now 23 years old, grown up. My son now has a little one who's only 5 months old. And so my grandchildren are now 20 years apart practically. But anyway, it was not, they are over 20 years apart. But either way, we have a wonderful family. So I, over the time, started to withdraw from being quite so gregarious. I started to stay at home. I didn't realize that that's what Parkinson's was. I didn't realize it was going to make me kind of retreat from life and stay at home. And people who knew me, they noticed it way before I did, that for what reason was Darlene not, I gotta put my fan on here, for what reason was Darlene not really participating in things? But I just said, I like being at home. I stay at home. And then I started to realize that I was really relying on memories. And I wasn't making new memories. I was relying on the old memories. And I have now discovered that that is part of Parkinson's. You do withdraw and you do sort of stay in. So my memories are very important to me. And I'm going to share a very special memory. And this memory is about peace and quiet. Now there's a lot of peace and quiet in my home. I'm here by myself a lot. My husband and I, he just sits very quietly. I keep saying to him, answer me, talk to me, right? I'm the talker. He just sits there and lets me ramble on. But a very special memory I had was when my granddaughter was young. And there was a day when she was driving her mother around the bend. Claudine said, and my daughter, she said, Mom, she said, she's always wanting something. She said, I only have a shower. She lived in the basement suite. She says, I only have a shower. She said, and you have a tub. Do you mind if I come up and have a soak in the tub and you keep an eye on Ivy? I said, that's fine, that's fine. So she's downstairs getting her towels and everything ready. And she says to Ivy, she says, we're going to go upstairs to Grandma's house. And Grandma's going to look after you because she says, I need some peace and quiet. She said, you have not been quiet for 2 minutes this whole day. So she says, I want some quiet and I'm going to have peace and quiet. I'm going to go up and have a tub. Ivy was happy to come up and play with Grandma. So we're up in there. Claudine goes in, she gets her tub all run. She gets into the tub and I see my little granddaughter peering under the door. She goes, Mommy, are you okay? Claudine says, yes, Ivy, I'm just fine. I'm just having some peace and quiet. Okay. She just sits right outside the bathroom door. And then she peers under the door again. She goes, Mommy, are you still okay? Yes, I'm just fine, honey. Enjoying some peace and quiet. So anyway, a few more minutes went by and I see her check the door handle. Is it open? Well, yes, it was open. It wasn't locked. So she sneaks into the bathroom as quiet as she can be. And her mom, of course, sees her coming. And her mom had put bubble bath in the tub. Well, she loves bubble bath. But she went in and she took a great big sniff of this bubble bath, which was coconut scented. And it was like a tropical forest in there. It was wonderful. She takes a great big sniff and she says, oh, so that's what peace and quiet smells like. So now whenever I smell the strong smell of coconut, I know that's the smell of peace and quiet. So anyway, this was just a little memory that I wanted to share because there is so many of them that if I don't share them now, I might forget them. And I don't want to forget them. If I ever forget them, I can run this back and I'll remember. So anyway, I hope you are all making wonderful memories. And I know that I'll continue to do so too. Have a great day.